Matthew Knight, and second I'm going to introduce you to Katie Broadgent. We're going to talk about all things new technology and e-safety to give you some advice and some guidance on the practicalities of how you can use new technology for learning and e-safety within your home. So first of all, I'm going to pass you over to Katie Broadgent, who will take you through the new technology slides.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Thank you very much. So I'm Senior Leader of Learning here and a geography teacher. Been here for 15 years, and we know for sure that ed technology can actually support learning. We know it can support your child in the classroom, and we also know it can be quite a useful tool as well when they're doing their self-study and their self-learning. So we want to look at some of the ways, first of all, and some of the things our students are actually doing with technology here. So I'm going to begin with a slide which has got quite a lot of information on. So as I'm talking, if you just want to go through some of these amazing activities, which I see as I walk around school and move from department to department. We've got the children using G Suite apps, as it says there, like Docs and Google Classroom. So they'll be completing some self-studies, some quizzes like Kahoots and Google Forms. We move on to something called Jamboards. So Jamboard is an amazing collaborative tool. It's a bit like a pinboard. And even in these times of COVID and with our safety protocols, we can still actually do group work with students using Chromebooks in the classroom because they're able to pin their ideas, they're able to link to other ideas, and so to actually conduct some discussion and some really great effective group work on it. You can see there we use things like Mo and Kaizena. These are verbal feedback tools, so which the teachers can use to actually communicate with your child. We've got Padlet, we've got 3D printing, we've got beautiful visuals and posters like Canva and Adobe Spark. That list purely is endless, and I literally only could fit that much on the page with you being able to read it tonight. So you need to be aware there's this amazing range of apps and tools that your child can use when they're here in school and when they're also at home. So let me drill down deeper now into actually a couple of bits of advice about how Google Classroom actually works, because they're what we receive the most questions on with Google Classroom. So first of all, what you're seeing here is, I guess, in effect, the logon, the opening page of Google Classroom. Your child will have their classes on. What you're seeing is some of the classes that I teach here. And when the child wants to go into a lesson, so when they want to go into a particular work, it could be their geography, their maths, they just actually need to click on it and it will pull up this, it will pull up their stream. So you're seeing one of my Year 10 classes here. And I want to draw particular attention to the stream and the classwork tabs at the top. The stream is kind of like a toilet roll. It's almost like this blog post of everything. And I really would like to stress that I want your child, and when you're looking at it with them, to actually use the classwork tab. The classwork tab is where assignments in class and those at home are actually set. So let's just look a little bit deeper at what the classwork looks like. So here we've got the living world. We've got lesson 17.5, desert adaptations, and you can see some instructions from the teacher here. This is one of the colleagues in my department. They have shared their lesson slides. So we're sharing how we're teaching, the things that we're doing with the children, and then we've actually got a worksheet for them to actually complete as they go. So they get that. You'll notice that this is the teacher view you've got here, so you can see it's handed in, it's been assigned and then been returned. So we as a teacher, we keep track of it. We can see if they've been posted. We know those of them that we actually have to comment on, and I'm going to go through marks in a moment. How do we actually mark it? So your child gets that, they click on lesson 17, the slides, they click on the hot desert poem, and those files would open on any device. They don't actually have to be using a Chromebook at home. This will even open on the mobile phone app. So if you or your child can download the Classroom, Google Classroom app on your mobiles, they also would work on there. Here we go, just one in a little bit more detail for a different class here, a Year 8 class with Asia. And you can see on this classwork stream, lesson by lesson, we're sharing everything that we're doing with your children so they don't miss out at all. So I hope I've covered kind of what it looks like and where to go, and classwork is where you want to be in. After that, I would like to stress this Google Tutorials channel. We've got an amazing group of digital leaders here, and one of them in particular has been making these help videos. So everything on how to access Google Classroom, handing in work, adding assignments, then through to using the actual apps from docs to, slides and Jamboard and so on, how to use it. It's an amazing channel. There are now 92 tutorial videos which have been made specifically for our children at Wildern School, our young people. So I really advise we'll get John to pop it in the chat, to put the web link in there, and it will be on our school website. I really suggest if there's anything we haven't covered tonight, if you want to go over it, please stop there first of all. Right, I now would like to cover self-study, or in fact, actually, what I still call homework. I've been here a long time and I still sometimes let it slip with homework. Self-study is set through Google Classroom. So this here, you're personally seeing one of the ones that was set to my class. Just like with giving them the lesson materials, I've given the little instructions. They've got a Google Doc, the thinking space to plan out a task here. So it was actually an exam question, and then they were actually going to write a question here. And all the student does is click on that document to open up and follow along. So whether it is self-study, whether it is in classwork, everything is accessed through Google Classroom like so. Now, marking. We do get a few questions. How do we mark it? How does my child know it's actually been marked? Where does the comments come? How do they hand it in? I'd like you to look in the top left-hand corner of the screen for the time being. You can see motes, the little purple mote. Mrs. K. Broadribb's left you a mote. There's quite a lot of us at Wildern who actually like to do verbal feedback. So you can probably guess right now, I love a chat. And if I know any of you watching, and I've taught your children previously, there's nothing more I love than having a bit of verbal discussion. So I personally like to leave some verbal feedback. I don't often always type my comments. I like something to listen to. And lots of students have said this can be quite motivating, to hear your voice and then to act on perhaps tasks and targets they need to. You've also got on the right-hand side private comments. So we directly comment to the child. It won't go to the class at all. So I do want to stress that. It's a private comment which only your child will actually see. So I've got some information here about how detailed this work was, how impressed I was. You'll also see in the middle of the page, me with a little tick, and then talking here about fossil fuels. Maybe you could extend your argument. This is where we directly annotate on the work. So in this case, this was a Word document handed in, and then I've highlighted and annotated on it. So what your child would do is your child would action it, then they would hit the tick symbol when it's done, and I would be notified that I've set them then a target, I've set them an action to do, and they've now done it. If you look at the bottom left as well, you can see they can mark things as done. So we've got this extra task to do, they can mark it as done, and of course they can send private comments to us. They can do exactly the same. Miss, I didn't quite get question 3. I'm not quite sure what you meant. That doesn't go to the class, that comes directly to us teachers, and we can respond. So I hope you get to understand that Google Classroom is really effective for feedback in all sorts of ways, verbal as well as obviously this written and this typed feedback. It's incredibly useful. There's more information on this if you want to find it on that Google Tutorials channel made by our digital leader. So I'm going to leave a couple of those bits there, and I'm just going to talk now generally before I hand back to Mr. Knight all about actually then what your child is doing in the classroom. So if they've got their Chromebooks, what they could be doing on them and what they could be doing at home. So first of all, we're sharing our lesson resources. I've got here an example of one of the theory books from RE, but this is absolutely endless, the potential of sharing resources. YouTube clips that we show, web links, a link to BBC Bite Size, the actual presentations, the worksheets. Anything that we're doing in class that is electronic, we can share with the child, which is brilliant because perhaps they've got their Chromebook in lesson and I'm going too fast and they can just catch up. Perhaps they're obviously at home and they need that extra support. They want that extra reading. They're a little bit stuck. They can go back to the lesson. I didn't quite get that. I'm going to go back to it. Next up, we've got the teacher screencasts. So lots of teachers here are making very short videos, usually only about 5 minutes in length, where you can either see the teacher's face if we're having a good hair day, or you can see our little avatar in the corner, where we're talking actually the youngsters through a task. It might be some direct instruction. So here we've got on the screen, this is my introduction to India, our economic case study for my year 11s, or it could actually be for feedback. So we've got teachers who are given feedback from marking an assignment, marking an assessment, and then asking their children to take action following it. So this is becoming really popular and is happening more actually in school, especially for that feedback function. We've then got a lot of our youngsters using voice record. So this function, as you can see, is found in Tools, and this is found in Google Docs. I am not taking away from writing at all. Our children obviously need that penmanship. They need to be able to write. But I find sometimes it's really hard for them to get started, and you can verbalise it before you've actually got the fluency of writing. And for those children who perhaps get stuck and they find literacy really hard, this is a great way to help them get those initial ideas down, maybe work out a draft before they actually complete and do the polished piece, perhaps on paper for their teacher. So that's a really nice one. That's liked by a lot of children here. Next up then, there's creativity. There are heaps of web extensions there. You're seeing on the screen at the moment, top left, something called Canva. We've got Google Drawing. We've got in the bottom, we've got Adobe Spark. These are some of the extensions which are used on Chromebooks and which are also available on other devices like iOS, and to ensure some creativity in our subjects. So from being used in MSS to make perhaps an awareness poster of a topical issue, through to creating beautiful infographics for revision. They're used massively as well if your child's doing media studies. So we've got lots and lots of web extensions because we want to give our children the choice of outputs. We want them actually to be creative in how they're learning and using technology. Okay, I'm going through them quite quickly, but I'll just stop to take a pause on quizzes and short tests. We're going to be hopefully getting you to do one towards the end of this presentation today. These are used across the school, certainly for self-study, but also in class. These quick pop-up tests. We'd like to know where these knowledge gaps are with your children. What can we do actually to make sure they're getting everything they need to in the lesson? And we get a lot of good feedback from these because it's instant. We can tailor it, so if they've got an answer wrong, they'll get that immediate feedback, perhaps with a web link to the correct answer, or we've gone through and we've typed out actually what the right answer is. So they get that immediate feedback, which is great and can be really specific and tailored. They don't have to wait. They've handed in a piece of work. They don't have to wait until I mark it and they see me on the following Wednesday. They get that feedback straight away. So this is a really effective teaching and learning tool. Next up, we've got some online glossaries. So in all our subjects, especially for the written part, when we talk about GCSE, we need to obviously have a vocab. I'm a geographer, and the language and speaking like a geographer I mention all the time. So glossaries online and enabling the students to put images in, to put hyperlinks to maybe a YouTube kind of video about that key concept is actually a really powerful tool that can be used in class and at home. Okay, you're nearly there for me now with digital mind mapping. Coggle is a hugely successful web application. It's brilliant. Coggle.it, if you'd like to have a look at it, that is the website. Essentially, it's online mind mapping, and it is massively used at Key Stage 4, really hugely. You've got here one, again, a geography example, one I've grabbed from one of my students. And we actually had loads and loads of entries for these mind maps for our Tech Fest, so for our digital awards ceremony back in September. What's nice for the student is they can connect their learning. They're not just putting down keywords and concepts, they're making all those links. They're able to add images in and bring something alive. So this has got really, as I say here, some devoted followers in Year 10 and Year 11. And then just bringing on the last bit, the further reading. We want to support our youngsters here. We want to support your child. So Google Classroom is a place where we're putting extra web links, extra reading. Or perhaps you found this hard, have a little look at this. You were interested in this in class, have a little look at this website, because we want to extend and we want to challenge our young people to actually do something further to deepen their learning. So what I've gone through there in a nutshell is quite a few tips and tricks in terms of what your child could be doing at home and in school, and just covering a few basics of how to use Google Classroom. I do want to just stress one last time that Google Tutorials channel, which will make sure the link goes in the chat and on the Wildern website. But for now, I'm going to say thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to hand over to Mr. Knight for the e-safety information.
Okay. Good evening. Everything we're going to share with you tonight will be available on the school website with the log-on details in front of you. And this recording itself will be on the WBC channel for you to go back to and look at. Once you've logged into the school website, you'll be able to go to the year group page for your son or daughter, and it will direct you down to the e-safety advice that's appropriate for the age group of your son or daughter. On the front of the website, you'll find on the news tab our e-safety information. And we've currently got 105 different guides. And I would go all the way into I'm a Celebrity later on this evening if I was to start going through just a few of the most popular apps that are used at the school. So if you have different apps that are used in your household, when you just have the discussions that I'll go on to later on, you can go to the guides and have a look. If there isn't a guide there that is useful for you, please just contact the school and we'll do our best to find it, or have a Google yourself, or even whilst you're on YouTube now watching this, after we finish, you can go onto YouTube and find the e-safety guides for various apps, and people have made them there to guide you. Linked to it as well, I would like to ask, if possible, that you follow the school accounts just to help with us with the flow of information, especially in these times, so you know what's going on. And if you haven't got the Parent Insight app already set up, please just contact the school and we'll be able to help you do that. But lots of you have done that and have been using it to make bookings for parents' evenings and to check on your WAD as that goes out. Google Guardians we set up for students in years 8 to 11 during the lockdown earlier in the year. So if you again need help with that, please contact the school and we'll make sure the invite is sent out to you. It was sent out to year 7 parents at the start of the year, but any questions or problems, please just contact us, and that will help you link in with what Katie Borges said earlier about the actual work we've done there. So apps. The interesting thing with e-safety is what you use is probably not what your son or daughter use since they've been here. Students tend to move to areas which we don't go for. So in 2020, these are the most popular apps used within the UK. As you can see at the bottom there, Facebook, dominated by, adults. Students do not tend to go to Facebook because we are there. And that is the underlying thing where they will go with. Same with the music. They don't like the music we like, they like the music they like. And if it overlaps, it gets a little bit awkward. So top of the list for us is Facebook. Bottom of the list on that slide as you look at it is TikTok, which would probably be used by nearly every student at a secondary school in this country, but not very many adults, certainly over the age of 24. During lockdown, you can see there has unsurprisingly been a dramatic increase in the amount of use of technology. Some for good, some because of boredom, but they have obviously been using apps a lot more and been stuck in the houses as they are now during the second lockdown, carrying on. What have they been doing? Watching films, unsurprisingly, spending longer using social media, that infinite scroll, the scroll, pulling down a never-ending kind of toilet roll, as I mentioned with the Google stream earlier, of information. It does not stop. It's designed to keep going. It's designed to be a little bit like an arcade machine, so they keep picking the next bit of information and the suggested forwarded on viewing. Top tips then. Please come back and watch this and pause. My number one top tip for you all is to make sure that your internet service provider has got family settings on it. You don't have to be tech savvy to do that. You don't have to plug into the router. You just phone up your internet service provider and ask them to make sure that your settings are family friendly and that nothing then comes through the filtering system at home. That will be nearly as good as what we have at school and will block out nearly all the things you do not want to happen. Once that's set up, if you then have a Google, have a search using any other search engine and see what comes through, it will be blocked and it will just come up with you Virgin Media blocked, and that will make them safe. It won't block out anything coming through on their mobile phones. That's a second phone call, but is equally as done. You can have that blocked on their phones as well. The next top 6 tips then. First one, top left there, they love their LED PCs in their bedrooms. It's very big at the moment, great for us in computer science because they know lots about the insides of computers now because they want a better gaming machine. But having them tucked away in a part of the house out of the way from you when they might be grunting away is not the best place. You need them on their devices in a family area if you can do. If you can't, and the devices in their rooms, they need to be so when you walk into a room, you can see the screens. Therefore, you know what's going on. If there's a laptop on a bed in front of them, you will never know what's on there. But if the screen is in front of you when you walk in a room, you have got a chance to see what they're doing as you walk into the room. Second one, turn off the push notifications on their apps on their phones. They may not like that, they like to be informed what's going on, but that is what draws them back into their phones. So as many of those push notifications as you can, either get them to turn off, or when you're looking at their phones, you turn off for them. That'd be great. If you don't know how to do that, there are guides on the school website to help you, or go onto YouTube on how to turn off push notifications for TikTok, and it will show you how to do that, because they will make videos for it. Because people make these videos, even though you think they are boring, because they want to become YouTube famous and then end up on I'm a Celebrity or end up on Strictly Come Dancing, because that's where they see their career aspirations. The PEGI ratings for games, you know the age of your youngsters, you know the games they've got already. Please don't push the boundaries on that. If they are year 7, they should not be playing PEGI games of 18. The eyes of the law, it's the same as them going down the pub and having a pint, because it's 18 for beer and it's 18 for the games. We understand they will sneak in, and it is your choice what's going on. And if you've got older brothers and sisters, it's harder to keep them off the games. But please try and keep as close to those PEGI ratings as you can do, and what you think is appropriate for your son or daughter. Phones and devices, tablets, out of the bedrooms at the weekend, and the week, and make sure they are downstairs. Whatever the time is you set on that is your family kind of rule, but you need to get those devices out every night. And sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes you might go to bed before some of your older children, but you need to make sure that's the rule and it's applied to. There's technology to support you. You can put screen times on there, so they lock out at a certain time, but I will still recommend that the device is taken out of the room and put downstairs. The apps they use, well, you still have a veto on that. And if you don't like an app, you don't like the sound of what you hear about an app, then you just say no to them having that app on their phone. They may not like it. They may have a lot of peer pressure from the school they're at asking for that from their friendship groups, but you can say no. They might grumble at you for a little while, but then they will get over it. And then when you're ready, they can go on to these apps. Once you've given them the app, it's nearly impossible to take it away, because they will be established with that. And the final one on that slide is the headphones. They will be plugged in. They have these expensive little AirPods going on, click, click, away in their ears. Please try and get it out of their heads and listen to what's going on. If they haven't got headphones on, you'll hear the conversations they are having via other platforms whilst they are gaming, while they're having the chats that are going on. They aren't chatting via a normal phone call. They are plugged into apps and using them. And lots of those are in the guides what's going on. If you ask your son or daughter how they talk to their friends, you'll find that they use devices and apps that you don't know about, because like we said earlier with the Facebook, you think it's phone calls, but they are plugged into Discord, etc., when they are chatting away. Quick 10 fixed rules then, and this is quite extensive, but this is for you and for the students as well. Please make sure display names do not give away who you are. Chop them around, change around, use middle names, whatever they may be, but make sure they are non-suggestive and actually don't necessarily give away the ID of the person. Make sure the profile picture, again, is appropriate, because they will always be public on all apps, and so therefore can be downloaded and put into a WhatsApp group. Maybe a follow-up question is, if you ask your son or daughter what's the biggest WhatsApp group they're in at their school, and you'll be surprised at how big they are and how many they are, and how often they are added to these groups. Make sure you check your privacy settings and make sure they are turned on regularly. They have a habit of being changed for us. Choose a strong, unique password for all your sites. That's all of you that are watching, really, not just the students. Don't share anything publicly that you wouldn't be happy for me to put up on screen now onto YouTube, because it is that easy to go out there. So please consider where it goes, because you have no control of it once it's been uploaded. Make sure you've got an up-to-date antivirus program. You may see that as a little bit of dead money, but it's a bit like all the insurances we have is protecting your devices. And make sure you've got cloud backup for anything that's on a solid hardwired machine at home. Be careful, anyone that's meeting online, they will have very strong friendships with people they regularly talk to online, but they have no idea who they are in the real world. Some of them will spend longer within some of the gaming platforms talking to these friends than they do the students they're at school with. So make sure if and when they arrange to meet people, they're having that discussion with you and how it's safe to do it and how it's safe to meet them in the real world. Don't associate yourself or themselves with their school or place of work. Please don't use your school or your work email on any of your accounts. It's giving away information that's not necessary out there, and people can link it together to hack your accounts. Make sure you practice safe browsing. Sometimes, usually on the weekend, you will get an email come through and it looks too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true. Don't click on the links. Check anything coming through from Netflix, check anything coming through from PayPal. You know when you pay those bills. So if they say there's a problem with them, if it's nowhere near your payment date, it's obviously a spam email or a phishing email trying to get information from you. Just a simple click on the address, you'll see where it's come from and it won't time that. If in doubt, block it, spam it, and then you can contact them via their website and ask those questions. Again, if you go online and look for these guides, there's lots of work on that. So we've established they're not on Facebook, but while I've got you captured audience here, I thought I'd go through some Facebook settings with you because you, chances are, it's what you're on, and it may have been the first thing you looked at this morning before you even made a cup of tea. So change the visibility of your posts so they are friends only. That's for you and everyone in your house, so that only the people you have in your friendship groups look at them. Don't forget to check your old posts as well. Historical posts can go all the way back, and they may be back in those university days, those party days, that you don't want those posts out there now. Anyone may still be able to see things you've liked. So a fat thumb on a train journey, you might have accidentally liked a page, so you'll need to actually go on an incognito window and check to see which groups you've liked. It may not even be that you've noticed that you've liked that page. Prevent search engines from displaying your profile page as well. If people Google you, it doesn't come up with your page. And make sure that your profile page, your public image and your cover photos are always public. So make sure they are appropriate for the audience as well. Come back and use those hyperlinks when this is emailed through to you. So some advice, if your son or daughter is being harassed online for social media, or something's going on in an online world that you're not happy with, please make sure you don't retaliate in any way. Very easy to do. Sometimes tempers can get raised very quickly, but please don't do that. Do take a screen grab of what's going on the device, date it, print it off if need be. If it's come through as a message, this is a hard one. Your son or daughter has come to you to show you there's a problem with their device. They won't necessarily then want you to take the phone, which is the basic instinct you go. If I take that mobile phone off you, they can't then have it, and nobody can harm them via any of the apps or messages they're being sent. But what happened is you're taking their entire world away from them because one person's been unkind. Just rename the contact on the phone, something like pass phone to mum, and if another message comes through, they can then show you the message, and then you can look at it and deal with that appropriately. Take the screen grabs, send them to yourself, etc. If it's perpetual or it's a current student, please contact us at the school or the school that your son or daughter goes to and let the school know so we can help you. If the comments are racist, sexist, of sexual nature, or you are just not happy with the responses you have when you reported it to the apps, please contact the police. They will take it very seriously for you. You do that by clicking on the click see it button, which you'll see in the bottom right hand corner there, and that is a way for them to go online. Does need to be a bit of a caveat here, is you have to ask your son or daughter, have they told you everything? Too often when we're dealing with e-safety incidents that happen, we get told like the peak of the iceberg, and it turns out there's a lot more below the water. They don't want to tell you because it's uncomfortable, but it's a lot easier for us and the police when we're dealing with these incidents to know everything the first time, because then we can shut everything down in one go rather than drip feeding the things that keep coming through to us, and we've lost control of that for you. There's some conversation starters, and I'm not going to go through them all, but please pause the video, and we'll go back onto black, and then have that chat with them. Try and cover all 10 of the topics sometime between now and Christmas, if you can do. Start with the positives. We know online life is great, and we do all enjoy it, but there are risks there. And in role play on the stories, you can pretend you've heard at work, or just drip feed them. What would you do in this scenario? What would you do in this scenario? And see what they say and guide them through it. Take some time as well, please, to look at the other winks that we've done. I know the one we did last week was really good on supporting teenagers, because lots of what we're doing here with the e-safety world does overlap with the teenage mind and how they are and how these kind of devices all into it. So that is me done. We're going to go to some live questions, are we now? Or are we doing our quiz, Mrs.
I
Borgia?
think we're going to go to some live questions, Mr. Knight. John, are there any live questions?
So I've been asked 2 questions directly. First one for Mr. Knight. My son is asking me to buy him the latest Black Ops game. What's your advice? I know one of his friends already has it.
First of all, I would look at the PEGI rating of the game and make sure that it's appropriate for the age of your child. We don't know the age of your son or daughter is there. So you need to make sure that's appropriate. And then it is your call. The pressure will come in. It's an 18 Black Ops. It's violent, you know, it has hand-to-hand combat in it. If you look at the symbols below the age, you'll see what's actually going on with the game. It's what you're comfortable with, but I would say keep them away from the games until they are either at the age of the games or they are close to those ages of the games. Look at the guides, it's on the school website. That will help you so you understand the context of what's going on. Some of them will have the micro purchases and things that are very addictive, but Black Ops itself, I would say there are easier and safer and more friendly first-person shooter games that they can go to, especially if they are Year 7 or 8 students, than Black Ops.
Great. Thank you very much. Second question was for Mrs. Broadrip. My child finds it hard to know whether the teacher has marked their work in Google Classroom. Where do we find these grades?
So all your son or daughter needs to do is click on the assignment. If it's been marked, the grade will be there. It will say marked and the comments will be there. If it's something which has been typed down, it will appear straight away as a private comment. If they click on the work, if there's a grade associated with it, it will be there. They literally, once they've done the work and handed it in, they check back later, click on the piece of work and all the grades will be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
That's all for my questions.
Super.
Okay. Well, I think we're actually going over to a little bit of work for you. So for all those people watching and listening along at home, we've just designed a little quiz, a Google quiz. So like we ask our youngsters to do here for their various subjects, we've got a little Google quiz which John is going to pop in the chat a little link to. There are a couple just of general questions, what they might be doing in class, and there are some linked to the great tips that Matt's given tonight on e-safety. So we would ask you to give it a go so you'll know and you'll go through how our students use Google quizzes, but also to see if you picked up some of the key information from tonight's wink. I think that's it, isn't it, Mr. Knight? I think, yeah.
I think we've got a couple of hours until I'm a Celebrity's on, so please enjoy clicking through what's on the website, have a go in at the quiz, and as anything comes up between now and any time in the future, please just contact the school directly and we'll be able to support you on anything we've mentioned tonight.
Definitely. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in.
Good night.
Bye.